actually a 60% loss. So these people are getting wrecked. They're being absolutely destroyed. A wrecking ball is coming through their wealth, and essentially putting your money in a house you were told is the safest investment that you can make in Canada has turned into the worst investment that you could have made in Canada. Isn't that ironic? Over 2 million people are going to leave Canada over the next couple of years. And what will this do to the housing market? And that is what we're going to be getting into in this video. And the housing market and the economy as a whole is falling apart. I mean, as you can see at this job line that's happening in Toronto, there are hundreds and thousands of people that are searching for jobs. And these aren't just isolated things. I've showed many videos. I've shared many stories of struggles of people trying to find a job. And now you've got 2 million people that are expected to leave the country in what's being called an immigration reset. But how is that going to affect an already crumbling and imploding housing bubble of which the economy is based on? Let's face it, guys, the economy is based on the housing market. So one will fold the other. So more than 2 million newcomers such as Dinesh are expected to leave Canada in the next 2 years as their permits expire, which is part of the federal government's plan to reduce the overall numbers of temporary residents and cut the population growth of the past few years. And obviously, this is a good thing in the long term, but it's going to come with massive consequences, and mainly those are going to be found in the housing market. Now, Ben put this on X, and I thought this was fantastic because it shows how the housing market is in worse shape now than it's ever been before. So people who are saying this isn't a crash are brain dead. Let's be honest, because you can look at this and the same people will say that the 1990s was a crash. Well, guess what, folks? Take a look at it, because 2022 to now is even worse than that. And you've got to account for the massive amount of inflation that has also happened, making real declines absolutely crazy. And that's what most people don't understand. So this is a great chart. Everything will be linked, by the way, in the description. And Ontario could lose more than 68,000 jobs due to US tariffs this year, a new report finds. And get this, guys, I mean, they just wiped out 3.9% of the entire manufacturing workforce in 1 month's job report. So think about how monumental that actually is when you think about it. 3.9% of manufacturing jobs gone in a single month, not a quarter, not a 6-month period, not a year, in a single month. So what is that going to mean moving forward? We have to look at these reports and think, okay, this is likely to happen considering what we're already seeing happen with the data. So the Financial Accountability Office of Ontario report published Wednesday foresees US tariffs could lead to 68,100 fewer jobs in the province this year compared to the no tariff scenario. That number nearly doubles for 2026 at 119,200 jobs and trails up to 137,900 job losses by 2029. And I think that's quite a rosy outlook. And if you go to the map, which we just had on the labor report, you can see right here, Ontario unemployment is now at 7.8%. It's even higher in the Toronto area. The Toronto area is one of the worst unemployment in the country, along with cities like Windsor, Calgary, and all those other places. So it really doesn't look good. Those cities are extremely exposed to the tariffs. And as Table Salt put on X as well, Toronto new build condos currently have 78 months of supply, a record high that was approximately 7 times greater than the balanced supply of 10 to 12 months of supply, says Urban Nation. Run and get out. And he is not lying, because you've just got to think about all the risk in the system, and people don't think about this, but the developers, all those loans that I've talked about before that are going to the big 5 banks, the big 5 banks have so much credit that is outstanding with all these developers building these billion-dollar towers. Hundreds of millions of dollars in commercial real estate loans have been granted, and then they're just not able to sell the units. So it's a total show what is happening in the condo market, and people really aren't keeping their eye on the ball, and commercial real estate defaults are absolutely exploding. In fact, they're at 2008 levels. This right here is the CMBS delinquency rate, which you can see is absolutely exploding. So even though the stock market may seem like everything's okay at the moment, just realize that in the background, the gyrations that we've seen that have been blamed on the tariffs were not necessarily the tariffs. There is a financial crisis that is building in the background, and it's all about real estate. And Toronto, Calgary, all the major cities have loads of empty office spaces. You guys tell me all the time that you've seen so many office buildings downtown Toronto, prime real estate locations, where you've just got empty floor after empty floor after empty floor. What does that mean? Because all of this is concentrated in 5 big banks in Canada. You have to acknowledge that. And then if you look at what's going on here, just more losses. 30% loss in Brantford, Ontario. This was a place that people were rushing to during the heights of the pandemic, and now these people are just bleeding money. So in 2022, somebody paid $950,000 and it just sold for $675,000 3 years on. Just think about that. 30% loss plus at least 30% inflation, actually a 60% loss. So these people are getting wrecked. They're being absolutely destroyed. A wrecking ball is coming through their wealth, and essentially putting your money in a house you were told is the safest investment that you can make in Canada has turned into the worst investment that you could have made in Canada. Isn't that ironic? But it's just absolutely insane what's going on. And then another massive loss in Paris, Ontario. So these are all rural Ontario places where people were just rushing to, and the speculators were rushing there as well. And it was sold back in 2023 for $1.79 million. They've tried to relist a bunch of times here, and then it finally sold for $1.33 million, which is $460,000 loss. You got to follow Shazzy Goalie on X. He posts loads of these all the time. We cover them. Absolutely fantastic work that he's doing. And you know, these losses are happening everywhere. As I showed you last week, in Alberta, you're seeing these losses as well. You're not looking at box houses like you're seeing here that are 3 feet away from each other, at least in Alberta. But if you go to the city, that's the exact same that you're going to see there, and it's definitely happening. And it's so funny that Shazzy actually put here that Paris, Ontario was actually more expensive than Paris, France at one point. Again, it's just mind-boggling that people don't question what is actually going on. They just blindly get led into it. But this is the herd. They're just a bunch of sheep at the end of the day, and they're being led to slaughter, as we're seeing what's happened right now. And then if you look at what's happening with GDP per capita across the provinces here, there's 4 provinces that are doing okay, and the rest of them are absolutely tanking, with Alberta and Manitoba in last place there. BC, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, all negative growth for GDP per capita, so living standards dropping. Saskatchewan increasing, and an extremely low unemployment rate there, as we covered before. Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, they've all got positive growth, but a lot of those have really high unemployments apart from Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan seems the only province that is bucking the trend here, which is going to be interesting to see what happens with, obviously, what's happened with the tariffs that have been put on canola exports from Canada, all because Canada put tariffs on EVs to protect an industry which, as Danielle Smith said, is just completely non-existent.
It seems like it's a bit of a phony war. We've got a 100% tax on EV vehicles from China that no one's buying in order to protect an EV industry in Ontario that doesn't exist. And in return, we are seeing punishment on pork and canola in our western provinces, which are products people do want.
So it's absolutely insane. It's a clown country, and people need to wake the up to what is happening here, because the economy, especially in Ontario and also in Alberta, are heavily impacted by what's happening with the tariffs, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, as we just saw a couple of weeks ago with the unemployment report. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this, I'd highly recommend that you check out this video here. And then if you're looking for a VPN and you also want to help support the channel, please get the VPN that I'm using right now, expressvpn.com/marketmania. I will see you in the next one.